could come today. I'm still getting over my teaching online jitters, feeling a little anxious, but it's par for the course for all of us right now. I think anxiety is a pretty common emotion for most people these days. So it's one of the things I wanted to address during our meditation today. So let's just jump right in. Many of you were here last week, I think, and so bear with me while I reteach 4-7-8 breathing, just because I think it's so needed right now as a way to very quickly calm the nervous system and combat the onslaught of cortisol and adrenaline that each of us are experiencing right now, related to COVID, related to staying at home, and all the other hardships that people are going through financially, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to teach this breathing for those of you that haven't heard of it before. I just call it 4-7-8 breathing. There's great videos on YouTube how to do it. If you just type in 4-7-8 breathing, it will pop up. Andrew Weil, W-E-I-L, is the guy who essentially has popularized it in Western culture. It comes from yogic breathing. So pranayama, which is using the breath to alter states of consciousness and alter how we're feeling, basically. So it's thousands of years old. Dr. Weil didn't invent it, but he's made it more accessible to us in the West. So I'm going to do an abbreviated version of what I did last week, so that those of you who already learned this are not bored out of your skulls. But I also want to emphasize that this is a medicine that works much better if you dose it frequently. So it will take about 30 seconds to do this type of breathing. And when I'm working with clients in my private practice, I recommend that when they learn this technique, that they do it once an hour while they're awake for 3 weeks, because we know that that's the amount of time that it takes to get into a habit. And the thing with learning something new is you don't want to be trying a new type of breathing while you're in the midst of a panic attack. You want to practice the breathing, even if anxiety levels are high, when you're not in the midst of your worst anxiety. And then the idea is that then as soon as you start to feel a little activated or anxious, you go right into the breathing. So anyway, let me teach you this, and that'll get us all more prepared for meditation. It's a great thing to do at the beginning of meditation because, it'll calm your mind, it'll calm your body. Some of you may feel a little tingly or lightheaded. It's not dangerous, but it does, for some people, give a real whoosh of relaxation, and that can make you feel a little funny at first, but not dangerous at all. So anyway, what you're going to do is you're going to place your tongue, the tip of your tongue, right behind your front teeth so that the tip of your tongue can feel the gum line between your teeth and your gums. So just try that at first. Feels a little funny, makes my jaw feel a little bit tight. So what I try to do is, because you don't want to be tightening up your face, that's kind of like counteracting the idea of the relaxation. So see if you can put your tongue there without, making your face weird or tightening your jaw too much. And so what we're going to do, and this may be modified for those of you, by the way, that have breathing problems. So you have asthma, COPD, emphysema, other breathing conditions. You may want to modify this, and I'll explain more about that later. So the first thing that we're all going to do, though, is we're going to take a breath in a moment through our nose for a count of 4. Okay, so it's going to, I usually count 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, but I'll count out loud for you during these 4 breaths that we're going to do together. So you're going to have your tongue right where I described it, throughout the entire exercise. And you're going to breathe in through your nose for a count of 4. For those of you that don't have breathing problems, you're going to hold your breath when your lungs are full. So, and we're gonna make sure that we're breathing not up here in the upper parts of our lungs, but we're actually gonna imagine that we can direct our breath down into the belly, down into the abdomen. Belly breathing is more calming for the nervous system, whereas when we breathe up in the upper parts of the lungs, it actually can be anxiety provoking. So we're going to breathe in through the nose for a count of 4 into the belly. And then for those of you that do not have breathing problems, you're going to hold your breath for around a count of 7. Even if you do have breathing problems, you might be able to hold your breath for a couple of seconds without it being uncomfortable. You just don't want it to be uncomfortable at all or anxiety provoking. So even if you don't have breathing problems and holding your breath feels uncomfortable and you don't like it, then just don't do it. And then you're going to breathe out very slowly for a count of 8. And your face is going to look a little funny, and so is mine, because you've still got your tongue up there behind your front teeth. And so it is going to slow down the out breath. And this is just what it looks like. So I kind of think of the out breath as like Darth Vader breathing. It kind of sounds like that. Yeah, so that's the whole thing. It's 4, 7, 8. And like I said, you can modify pretty much everything. Besides, you want the in-breath to out-breath ratio to be 1 to 2, because that's a big part of what initiates the relaxation response. So you might, if you're going to cut out the breath hold, you might do 3 to 6 or 2 to 4 or 5 to 10. So when you're playing with this on your own, know that you can modify it to what's comfortable for your body. So let's get situated, and I want you to be sitting relatively upright so that you can really fill your abdomen. So let's just first try some belly breathing without all the counting. I want you just to breathe in through your nose and notice, and put your hand on your belly and notice that your belly button should be pushing outwards when you breathe in. And then when you breathe out, the belly button retracts or moves backwards towards your spine. So just keep trying that. And some of you might notice that it's happening the opposite way, that when you're breathing in, your belly is sucking in. That means you're breathing up here in your chest, okay? And so that's kind of, if you've been doing that a long time, it's a hard habit to change, but just see if you can kind of, for now, just encourage your belly button to move outwards. And what it is you're really not breathing up here. You're directing the breath right down into the abdomen, and then the breathing muscle, the diaphragm, pushes down, and that's what pushes your abdomen or belly button outward. All right. So now that you've hopefully got belly breathing, and if you don't, then practice that, because that breathing up here, like I said, it just really makes anxiety worse. So let's just take a moment now to breathe normally. We're upright, as if a string was pulling you upwards from the crown of your head. So your chin is slightly tucked. Just check in about your positioning, feet both flat on the floor if you can. If you're lying down or you're in some other position for comfort, obviously just modify. Ultimately, I want you to be comfortable, and that's the most important thing. Okay, so let's all take a breath in and a breath out. And then we'll begin in through the nose with your tongue up where it's supposed to be. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out through your mouth. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If you need to modify, do so. In. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Out through your mouth. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In through the nose. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out through the mouth. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Allow the eyes to close if you're comfortable with that. If not, just downward gaze and just notice your body. Notice any sensation or lack of sensation. Notice your breathing. Notice if there's any difference between how you were feeling before the breathing versus now. Don't be hard on yourself if there's not a difference. Doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. Sometimes it takes several rounds of doing this, several days of doing this to start feeling the relaxation response. So if you don't get a strong response right away, keep doing it. It is additive. So I would encourage you now, as we move into meditation, to find your position where you're most comfortable, whether it be sitting in a chair or lying down or on the floor. Some of you might want to stand. Any position is fine. Just be comfortable. And I would really encourage you that while we're doing the meditation, rather than looking at me on the screen, I would encourage you to close your eyes. It's easier to go inward with the eyes closed. And there may be some people, though, for whatever reason, past trauma or, many reasons why closing your eyes might feel really uncomfortable. And if looking at my face feels comforting and grounding, that's fine. If you find it distracting, though, then just have a downward gaze. You can look at the floor, look at your hands. But the whole idea is to support yourself in going inward. So let's begin by doing a very brief body exercise to help recognize where we're having tension and how to release it. So our muscles, they're basically like on or off, but sometimes it's very difficult to feel a muscle that has chronically been on. And so what you could do, many of you have tried this, I'm sure, you can do progressive muscle tightening and then loosening. And just in the interest of time, I'm not going to do a long period of this, but this can be a great way to fall asleep at night or fall asleep again if you wake up in the middle of the night. And I'm going to be talking about sleep more in the question and answer period. Many people have reached out to me saying they're having trouble sleeping, and so I will address that. So for today, though, what I want you to do is I want you to simply now tighten up the lower half of your body. So tighten up your feet, your legs, your butt cheeks, your pelvis. Tighten up the lower half of the body. Your abdomen might get a little involved. Tighten, keep holding that tight, and then release. Take a deep breath in, out through the mouth. And again, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Let's do that one more time with the lower extremities. So if you're able, tighten up your lower extremities all the way through the pelvis, buttocks, lower abdomen. Tighten. Feet are flexed, and release again. Deep breath. Deep in-breath into the belly, and out through the mouth with a sigh. So much of anxiety is body tension. If we can invite the body to relax, so much of the anxiety in the mind will start to loosen and relax itself. So really attending to the body early in your meditation is really important. Otherwise, you're just going to sit there feeling like tight and uncomfortable, and there's no need for that. So let's move up to the upper half of the body. I'm actually going to suggest that we do all the way from the abdomen up through your chest, your arms, your fists, your back, and your face. So, you know, we're all going to be making funny faces here, scrunching our faces up. All right, so when you're ready, tighten up the upper half of your body and your face. I'm sure I look ridiculous. And release. Deep breath in. I hope you got some comic relief from that. All right, let's do it again. So tighten. And release. Realizing I probably look very constipated. Deep breath in. And out through the mouth. Deep breath in. Out through the mouth. And you might even be able to see or feel, even more importantly, in your own body, that as you breathe in deeply, pay attention on the next one, the shoulders actually will drop and soften, okay? Good. All right, so wiggle it out a little bit, shake your arms, maybe even stand up if you've been sitting down. Just stand up and shake your body out a little bit. Okay. So now that we have all arrived a little bit more in our bodies, let's begin the more formal part of our sitting meditation. All right. Allowing the eyes to close if you're comfortable, keeping them open if it feels better. And I want you just to begin by feeling the breath moving from a very, very short path from the tip of the nose up to the top of the nose. So it'll kind of feel like you're breathing up into your space between your eyebrows. Some people might call that the third eye. So you're going to breathe from the tip of your nose up into that space between your eyebrows. it sort of feels like you're breathing up as high as the breath goes in the head. So you can kind of, for those of you that are visual, you can picture that, the breath moving. But mostly it's that you're feeling the breath from the inside. You're feeling the sensation of breath moving along the inner path of the nose and back out. And you might even notice that when you breathe in, the air is cooler. When you breathe out, it's warmer. So let's take a few moments just to notice that very small path of breath. All the breathing through the nose, unless you're stuffed up or have allergies, and then it's fine to breathe through the mouth, but ideally through the nose if you can. Bring awareness now to the rest of your body. Notice if you're unconsciously tightening muscles that don't need to be tightened. And on the in-breath, just inwardly whisper an invitation, a very kind invitation to your body. And it might sound like soften. It's just a light reminder to the body that it doesn't have to hold so tightly, that gravity will indeed hold you up. Bring special awareness to your face. We very often unconsciously are holding the little muscles around the eyes, almost as if we're like leaning forward with our eyes. Imagine that you can release all those little muscles around the eyes and that the eyes can even drop back into the eye sockets. Bring awareness to your cheeks and your jaw. Maybe even momentarily just consciously allow the jaw to drop. With each out breath, noticing that the body has a tendency anyway to let go and soften. The out breath is a letting go. So you can be conscious about that and help your body let go by encouraging it to soften. And again, it's not a forcing, it's not a order, it's not militant. It's very gentle. Tuning into the breath now and noticing today in your body where it's easiest to be aware of the sensations of breathing. Some of you might find it easiest at the nose or the back of the throat and feel the air moving past that area. Some of you might find it easiest to notice the expansion and softening of the chest, so like the rib cage as it expands and softens. And then some of you may want to be at the abdomen. So as you breathe in, the abdomen moves out, and as you breathe out, the abdomen moves in. So just take a moment to notice today where it's easiest to be aware of your breathing. And then if it's unclear, just pick a spot and tune into the rhythm of your own breath. And please know that if you're having thoughts arise, well, congratulations, you're human. The mind, it's the whole job of the mind is to observe and make comments. And I find in my own practice, the less I worry about that, the less I obsess about controlling my mind, the less trouble it gives me. I have a very busy mind and I've been meditating for like 20 years. It just is the way some people's minds are, most people's minds, I think. And so, you'll have quiet days and you'll have days where you got monkey mind. And it doesn't mean you're doing it right or wrong. It doesn't mean that you can meditate or you can't meditate. Everyone can meditate. There's this myth that if your mind isn't perfectly still, you're not meditating. But I really like to emphasize that a moment of mindfulness is when the mind has wandered. You recognize that it's wandered and you make a choice to bring it back to the breath or whatever you're using as your object of awareness. So there's no failure in that. That is the practice. The practice of meditation is a wandering and a coming back, a wandering and a coming back. And so that's just the way it is. It'll wander to thoughts, the future, the past, the body, um, stories. And as you practice, though, it's easier to catch the mind. And that's super important because the mind tells all sorts of lies and stories, and it's just not to be trusted. It changes its mind on a whim. The body, on the other hand, is a great source of information. And so, why don't we take a moment now to just notice, especially in this like central region of your, throat, heart space, solar plexus, belly. Just notice if there's any sensations there right now. This is often where fear or anxiety will pop up for people. I often will feel fear in my throat. I'll feel a tightening. Many people describe fear as like in the stomach. It's how we get the butterflies in the stomach idea. And some of you might feel it as a clenching or some other sensation in the heart space. So I want to emphasize this because I feel like there's so much fear in the world right now that fear, just like every other emotion, is a set of body sensations that we have named. So fear is really loaded and it's connected to all sorts of stories from the past. And for those of us who've been through trauma, it's extra loaded, and most people have been through trauma. But what I want to emphasize today is that we can learn to not be afraid of fear. We can learn how to turn towards fear by turning towards the sensations in our body with empathy, with kindness, not with a judging mind or a critical mind. That just makes it too hard to hold space for most things. But so let's actually practice this because I know that we're all feeling, most of us at least, I think, are feeling a lot of fear anyway. And so, in this supportive space of this circle of friends in this community, let's invite the feeling. Let's invite the feeling of fear. And there is a purpose to this. I'm not just trying to help you learn how to suffer, believe me. So, invite, maybe if you can't just invite the feeling of fear, if it's not already there, invite a circumstance, maybe not the most scary thing, probably, definitely, let's not practice with the most scary thing, but bring up something that's making you anxious or that is making you fearful. and allow it to arise. Some of you may feel a real resistance to this, and that's okay. If that's happening, just notice the resistance and what that feels like in the body, and don't judge yourself. Trust the body. It knows when it's ready to do things like this. You can trust it. And if it's blocking it and saying, she's crazy, I'm not doing this, listen to the body. Above all else, listen to your own intuition. So as you feel any sensations arising, see if you can imagine that you are literally directing the breath into whatever part of your body is feeling the fear. And I would also encourage you to put one hand on your heart, if that feels comfortable, just a light touch, and another hand on the part of your body that seems to be feeling fear. And that could be anywhere. And if the fear feels like it's more in the heart space, you could put two hands there, one, whichever you prefer. And I want you just to imagine that you're just breathing right into the place of fear. The hand on the heart is connecting you to love. We can't be in love and fear at the same time. Love softens fear. Compassion and love help to create a container that makes fear tolerable. So notice if your mind is going with a story and see if you can allow the story to just fall away. Okay, so let go of whatever you were thinking of to bring up fear. And I want you just to notice the body sensations. You might even name them in your own mind. Might be throat tightening, tears, chest tightening, stomach upset, whatever it is for you right now. When we name things and we recognize them, it takes some of the mystery out, and it gives us a sort of like a little bit of distance from it. So it gives us a sense of like, oh, I am not the fear. I am not this entity of fear. It is an energy, it is body sensations that are moving through me, but I am not defined by it. I am not it. So continuing to breathe in. And if you need to, sometimes it can be helpful to open the eyes, look at the sky, give yourself a bigger perspective, and imagine that the space that your heart and this community is helping to hold for the fear, that this space is expanding, okay? So you might picture the fear, but you're still feeling it. You're feeling the sensations. And we're just sort of imagining that this bubble that we're giving space for the fear in is just getting larger and larger. So it's expanded now outside the physical structure of your physical body. Okay, so you're just witnessing sensation. And now I want you, just as we did last week, I want you to picture that everyone on this call, like last time we had like 100 people or more, picture all of us. If you can picture the Monona Terrace with those beautiful windows, picture all of us in a circle. If you're a hand holding type, picture us holding hands. If you're not, then don't. And picture all of us breathing into our fear with tenderness and breathing out love. So we're breathing in love, and we're breathing out love. So we're bringing all this love. And when you're breathing out love, you're breathing in someone else's love and compassion. So we're not doing this alone. We're doing this together. Imagine the bubble that the fear is contained in is getting larger and larger and larger. And it's also containing all the love. So you might picture this bubble getting bigger than that room at the Monona Terrace. All of our bubbles are coalescing now and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And imagine that the love is infusing this humongous bubble with this bright light. And the fear, which we could picture as being shadow-like, is being dispelled by the light. We're shining our love, we're shining our light into those shadowy places that we all have together. Imagine that the bubble is getting huge now. It is expanding throughout the world. It's expanding across the country. It's catching up everyone and their fear and all the news and everything that's adding to fear, and it's just sweeping it up in our light. All the shadows are getting swept up in the light, and they just can't live there anymore with all this love light. And it is expanding now, and now it is outside of the planet, and it is encompassing the entire planet. If you really want to get big, you can go even past that, out into the Milky Way, into the galaxies, the universe. Together, we can outshine fear. Together, we can overcome fear. We can hold this space together. Coming back to your own breath now. I'm just going to take a moment to dedicate our practice today. May the fruits of our practice today spread outwards in all directions, into all galaxies, into the entire universe, and help to end the suffering of all beings everywhere. I bow to each one of you. You, just by showing up and being with yourself, we are making big changes in consciousness right now. Every time we show up with our own emotions, every time we bring compassion to the fear that's in the hearts of everyone, you are connected to every other human being. We are all the same, and we are all feeling this. And you are not alone. I just really want to emphasize that. There can be a real sense of isolation right now, and we are all feeling the same things, and therefore we are all connected, and therefore we can have compassion, every one of us, for ourselves and for everyone else, everyone in the world, everyone in the universe. So I went a little bit over. We'll probably go a little bit past the time for those of you that want to stay for question and answers. And yeah, I'm thinking about modifying this actually, because I feel like we don't have enough time to meditate. So I think maybe one thing, if you want to comment in the evaluation, is I'm thinking maybe we should do a 45-minute time and then have like 15 minutes afterwards from 12:45 to 1 for questions, so that it doesn't feel rushed. And those that have to leave for Q&A can obviously leave at any point. While I'm waiting for anyone to have questions, I'm going to answer a question that was asked via email about sleep. A lot of people are having trouble sleeping right now. There's a real collective energy of fear. And so many of us, I mean, some of us are empaths and we're so sensitive to other people's energy, but even just the collective fear is so big that it's waking people up. And so I wanted to just give you a few ideas about falling asleep or going back to sleep. I mentioned last time Insight Timer. It's INSIGHT Timer, like I have an insight. And it's a free meditation app. If you have a computer or a smartphone, you can put it on there. And one of the best techniques, I think, for sleep is called Yoga Nidra. It's NIDRA. It means yogic sleep, and it is not yoga like asana. It like poses. It is relaxation, deep relaxation. And it's been proven scientifically to calm the nervous system. So if you go on Insight Timer and you find, or YouTube or wherever, they're everywhere, find a yoga nidra that you like, find a voice that you like, and cue it up on your phone or whatever so that it's ready at bedtime or in the middle of the night. You can also do it during the day to lower anxiety. It's great for that. The 4-7-8 breathing is really great for sleep. I just saw a question about calming a racing heart. The 4-7-8 breathing that I taught you all today is really good for the fight or flight. So fight or flight is like racing heart, shortness of breath, dizziness, any of those signs of like hyperadrenaline can be calmed by 4-7-8 breathing. But I would also suggest, if you're having racing heart a lot, that you consider starting a practice of yoga nidra and doing it as many times a week as you can. There's some that are like 30 minutes long, some that are 20. And you might fall asleep during it, and that's okay. It's not the point of the exercise, but if you're using it for sleep, then you can use it that way. Body scans are another, you can find body scans on Insight Timer or any of these meditation apps. Oh, speaking of Yoga Nidra, I wanted to mention, and it'll go out in the email, but next week on Wednesday during this session, I'm going to teach Yoga Nidra. And so you'll want to be laying down for that session. So prepare, your bed or the floor with lots of comfy pillows and blankets and stuff. Also about sleep and just anxiety in general, I just wanted to mention that I think most of you know that I'm a psychiatrist and I'm a holistic psychiatrist and therapist, and I am taking clients on. I am in a private practice on my own now. And so if you're really struggling and you want more one-on-one instruction, I would be happy to meet with you on Zoom or meet with you by phone. And I can tell you more about my rates and blah, blah, blah. If you respond to that email that Misty's going to send to you, then she will forward the email to me. Let's see what else. I'm going to go
back to the questions.
Yeah.
What is the point of putting the tongue behind the front of the teeth?
Thanks, Steve. I'm really glad you asked that because it's going to make me look it up for next time. I am assuming that it is an energy point or like an acupuncture point or acupressure rather, but I need to look it up and so rather than making something up, I don't know. But I think that Dr. Weil usually has a really good reason for doing things. And it's probably how the yoga technique developed. And so, but I'm going to make myself a note right now. Tongue, teeth, why? I have often wondered that myself. And for a long time, that feeling of my tongue up there really just annoyed the crap out of me. And so honestly, I did it without the tongue behind the teeth, and I found it really effective. When COVID started and my anxiety was really high, I decided to try it that way, and I've gotten used to it now. And I don't know, I mean, it's really subjective, but I think it works really well with the tongue too. So you can try it both ways. Let's see, are there any, oh, I can read it. It's okay, I've got it up. Are there any specific techniques to help reduce nausea caused by anxiety? Thank you, Jessica. That's a really good question. Um, Specifically for nausea, I'm not sure, but I will also look that up, see if I can find any resources about that. I would think that nausea is from, um, I believe what it comes from is like when you're in fight or flight, basically what happens is it's like your body thinks that it is encountering a bear. Okay. Unfortunately, COVID and many other chronic stressors, they stay around for a long time. And so it's not like a bear in that, these things happen, all these bodily functions respond, and then we calm back down, right? So that's the problem with chronic stress. So in acute stress, though, like if you were to encounter a bear, what would happen is all the blood flow would go to your extremities. It makes sense, right? You got to run. And we're evolutionarily evolved from a time when we had to run from big animals. And so that's how our body's designed. And so when all the blood flows away from your stomach, and this is what I suspect just from my medical training to be true, is that it can cause a sense of nausea, because there's not enough blood flow. So especially if you have like food in your stomach, it's not getting digested. And it may be too that the other neurotransmitters like adrenaline and cortisol can just cause nausea on their own. So I'm answering more why do we have nausea than how to treat it. But my answer is that I think anything that would reduce the fight or flight, and the sympathetic nervous system is the part of the nervous system that like gives you all that cortisol, gives you all that adrenaline. And if you were running from a bear, that would be great, but you're not. You're dealing with COVID and lots of other things probably. So we need to find ways to help our nervous system feel safe, even in this time of this heightened fear. Because truly, most of us, I mean, that there are many people like that are homeless and really hungry, and that's a whole different situation. They are not safe. But there are many people right now that are physically safe. And so a lot of the anxiety is being fueled by the news and fueled by our minds. So that's the other thing I would suggest is if you're having a lot of anxiety and fear, I would take a news break. Um, I know for myself, and I've struggled with chronic anxiety throughout my life. When I watch the news, I feel worse. And so, I stay up to date, and I stay up to date about things that I can change. But there's this fascination with hearing all the details and knowing all the statistics. And like, it's almost like this thing that pulls you in. But notice, do you feel better after you watch the news, or do you feel worse? And, act accordingly. Um, and I will try to find out if there's anything specific. But for now, Jessica, I would suggest that if you have time, that you start a practice of yoga nidra, and that you do the 4-7-8 breathing every hour and whenever you're nervous. Okay. So whenever the nausea starts, you automatically start doing 4-7-8 breathing for 4 breaths. Okay, I had an episode of nocturnal jerks during my meditation. Yeah, so when the body relaxes, it's super normal to feel jerking. And actually, what I want to reassure you about, and even offer as another way to reduce stress, is a technique called TRE, which stands for tension or trauma releasing exercises. And that's something that I teach in my private practice. You can get certified to teach it. There are other people in Madison and throughout the country certified to teach it. But part of it is this tremoring. And if you've ever seen like a dog shake in a thunderstorm, you've seen that fine tremor. So jerking or tremoring is a way that the body can discharge energy. It's not dangerous. It's not a problem. In fact, it's a good thing. And perhaps another time I can talk more about TRE, but you can look it up if you want. It's just, if you look up TRE, it should pop up. And if not, you can look up trauma releasing exercises. And there are videos and stuff. But if you do have a history of significant trauma, I would recommend not doing it on your own at first, but doing it with somebody who's certified, and there's a list online of certified providers. Um, is there any effect if I only meditate once or twice a week? Great question, Paula. What I would suggest, I mean, yes, of course, definitely there's benefit. What would be more beneficial than meditating for, a half an hour once or twice a week would be meditating for 3 minutes every day. So there is something about the frequency and the consistency of meditation that is more important. And I've heard Richie Davidson, the guy who studies meditation here in Madison, he talks a lot about that, how it's the frequency and the consistency in studies that seems to be more profound, have a more profound effect on the brain. And I'm guessing that's because of brain plasticity. So we have the ability, now we know we have the ability to change our brains literally down to the cellular neuronal level. We can change the structure of our brains, and meditation does that. And so there's something about the consistency in terms of, when you think about creating a new habit, you have to do it over and over and over and over again. And so meditation is no different. So yeah, I would suggest that you just shorten the time and try to do it every day. Even if you, like I said, even if you do it for 1 minute or 3 minutes, right when you wake up or right when you go to bed, most people can find 1 to 3 minutes. Even if you just did, the 4-7-8 breathing and set a timer for 1 minute, that would be beneficial. Just wanted to confirm that the tongue should be at the gum line behind the teeth at the top, not teeth at the bottom. Yeah, that's correct. Yep. So upper. And get ready to do yoga nidra next Wednesday at noon. So have your cozy spot set up.
See you next Wednesday. Everybody, please be well and bye.
Take care.